Hello, and welcome to Hypergrowth, the podcast that's dedicated to unpacking what it takes to be a rapidly scalable e-commerce brand. Joining me today is Erik Christiansen, founder of JustUno. Erik's a serial entrepreneur. He's been in the e-commerce space for well over a decade, and he's got a lot of knowledge to share with you guys today. Erik, welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me, Arjun. Glad to speak with everyone today.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Thanks for carving out some time. And, I think you've got such an interesting story, Erik. So I'd love to start with just your founder story. I know you've been in e-commerce for a long time. You've been in the snowboard space. You've been in the bedding space. You've been in the SaaS space. So I want to understand just a little bit about your background. Let's start with the e-commerce brands that you were a part of in the early days, that you started, that you founded, that ended up getting acquired. How about we kick off there with a little bit of your background on that front?
Yeah, background flows from retail, e-commerce to SaaS and entrepreneurial, kind of all the way through. Right out of college. Even in college, I dropped out of college actually for a bit to run a web design company, and then that carried through post college. I actually had spent some time with a brick and mortar company in 2000, and then 2005 jumped into e-commerce with SierraSnowboard.com. Scaled that one up rapidly, and then 2010 to present, focusing on JustUno with a few companies in between, of course, because you can't just build one at a time. But we picked our winners, is what we did.
If you build one at a time, you're not living true to the entrepreneurial ADD syndrome that many entrepreneurs have. But so Sierra Snowboard, when you were part of that company, I believe they got acquired by, was it Active?
Yeah.
Active Riders, Board Corp.
Yeah.
So with that business, 2005 to 2010, how much did it grow when you were there? What were the key attributes in terms of what grew that business? Would love to get your thoughts, because look, that's a long time ago in the years of e-commerce, but at the same time, you kind of have to look back to look forward to really map out the future. So would love to just understand what your strategies were back then.
Yeah, I know it's funny. We've been reflecting back a lot lately as we look at 2023 and trends. And, as we look at what made Sierra Snowboard successful, we've actually, I've had some great insights lately. And a lot of it relates to JustUno too, because JustUno is a spawn of Sierra Snowboard. So Sierra, we went from, in 5 years, we went from 0 to 20 million in sales, in online sales. It was rapid growth every month, every year. It was an insane time. We were in the trenches every day. And this is before Shopify, before any platform works. So a lot of what we built in-house, because we were working with Radiant Systems. They're a big POS company, and they bought Counterpoint, a Memphis-based company. Like, I went to Memphis for training, like in 2005. And what we quickly found is that their shared code base didn't work for us. It took too long. It was too expensive to update. So we brought it in-house so we can move fast. And when we moved fast, what we did is, as we're reflecting back now, we were just so customer-centric. We were so hyper-focused on our customers, and it was easy because we were snowboarders. And so we ended up building this entire, this machine that was just feeding itself when it came to helping us grow. And that, as I look at, who today is crushing it, Amazon, Jeff Bezos' focus, being customer obsessed, he's focused on price, selection, and service. It hasn't changed as we look at retail, like old school retail, the art of retail. It's same thing when you look at the successful companies. And we've been looking through this as well as look at Zappos, so focused on customer service. Nordstrom's a traditional one. So what allowed us to succeed at Sierra is we've built this customer experience that led to higher sales conversions, retention, and leads. So, does that summary make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And I mean, I think it's a really valid point that a lot of brands nowadays forget, because with as you mentioned, back then it was before Shopify, it was before platforms. Now, a lot of brands obsess about the return on ad spend and the margin aspect of what they're doing from a customer acquisition aspect. But what about taking care of the customers that you've got? What about the aspect of delighting your customers, right? There's that surprise and delight feel that is it feels like it's kind of getting lost in the new way of doing direct to consumer. But I'd love to unpack that a little further. Like, it sounds like you did that back then and you're bringing those principles forward. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, we were, as I've been, over the holidays, I spent a lot of time thinking about this stuff and how we're running JustUno as well. The JustUno was spawned because we recognized that visitors were hungry for coupon codes. It was back when Google would show you the search terms, and we saw that Sierra Snowboard coupon code was a top search. So we ranked up our community pages. We had a forum we had like a true social commerce platform that we built, connecting our forum software with our cart software. So all of our community members, and I say community members is when we started JustUno, this is back when forums were big.
Was that V Bulletin? Were you using the
VB Bulletin?
Oh yeah, I remember those.
And we Burton Snowboards and then snowboard.com were these online communities, and our customers were on there, our potential customers were on there asking what size snowboard they should get. So I recognize this. Where are your customers? That's where they are. We were going in there providing expert advice, and then they would naturally come to us to buy. So we built our own forum community. And through that, we had all this connection and data with our customers. Then we tied those two softwares together. So our review software was pulling from our customer or community profiles. We meshed it all together. And that's why I love what Okendo's doing right now with reviews. They're really pulling in like, who is this person reviewing this? So the consumer is like, oh, I trust them because I get who they are, type thing. So we recognized this, and we saw that those consumers had an 8 to 11% sales conversion rate that had left, Googled Sierra Snowboard coupon, found our page, and came in. What was happening at that time was coupon hunting. And we have the same problem today in a sense that e-commerce managers or the organization refuses to accept what a customer wants today and why they want that. So for 12 years, we battled with, educating the market on why coupons are important, how to properly leverage them, and why, pop-ups are not a bad thing, and how do you leverage them better. So coupon hunting, retailers refused to accept that they were going to Retail Me Not and looking for coupons, finding coupons that were inactive, bad experience, maybe finding a competitor's coupon. Why not present that to them at the right point during the shopping experience, and you'll get a higher conversion rate. Fast forward to today, and then Retail Me Not's faded. Honey came in. Honey's probably one of the worst things for retailers right now. And then where are we today? My new coupon hunting issue today is retailers not accepting the fact that their consumers are shopping their website and saying, great, I'm now going to go to Amazon and buy it there because I know I'm going to get fast free shipping. I'm going to get the service side of things. And when we talk about the customer experience, Amazon, we have to accept and love what they've done. There's a reason why they own 60% plus of e-commerce right now. With that, what can you do as a business to replicate that experience on your site so that you win the love of your customer?
Yeah, I think it comes down to that personalized web experience, right? And when we think about 2023 and what's ahead, it's going to be important for brands to think about their user personas and who they were servicing in the past couple of years when there was incredible pandemic-oriented tailwinds, and how you pivot that towards really understanding what the psychology of a consumer is in the next couple of years, right? And your personas, you might have a persona that single persona might be 5 different ones if you dig deep and really understand what is that customer really caring about? And then in turn, ensuring that your overall experience, both pre-click and post-click, are guiding that consumer through the journey based on the psychology and the behavior that they're enacting upon based on what's happening in the kind of macroeconomic climate as well. So it's really interesting to think about how retailers are going to have to pivot in this next year as well.
Think about this. West Sounds, huge company. I shop them, every so often we're looking for furniture. Every single time I go to their website, they treat me like a new customer, a new visitor. They ask me I see a pop-up that says, would you like 15% off? And they ask for my email address. I have given them my email address umpteen times. This is a major brand, still treating every single visitor like the same one. Mm-hmm. And this is a big problem that the industry is facing right now that we're working to solve and help retailers with.
So what type of brands does JustUno work with in respect to, guiding those brands through changing how they think about the customer journey and helping them to create those more personalized experiences?
Well, the first one would be a brand that respects and understands the importance of the customer. That's like the starting point. You have to have that team member inside, the champion that is going to fight for the customer. And that, often it's the e-com manager, it's not just a digital marketer. It's like this website it's organic. And whoever's in charge of it needs to own the entire tech stack. Because part of this customer experience, when you look at why Amazon's successful, is you show up, you're logged in, so they already know who you are. That makes for easy, quick payments. Returns are going to be easy because it's built in the whole software. You're going to get it next day or the 2 days or whatever. Those basic elements, well, that e-com manager needs access and management and connection with the shipping and fulfillment team. It's understanding the operations, the organization within the company, so that it's not different teams pitted against one another. It's working together and owning that and communicating that value, that they understand that when you're on a product page, this product's going to ship today and it's going to get to you this day because we're fully connected organization. So what kind of organization is that? These DTC brands, I love them because the red tape's been removed. And oftentimes they have a product that they're passionate, they're focused on a singular solving a product problem for a customer. And it's something that people can be passionate about. I think you have to be, as I look back at Sierra Snowboard, we got to snowboard. We had to build snowboards ourselves. We became a manufacturer ourselves. It was fun. And how do you get that fun back into it? And part of it that we're looking at with our own company is, we've been doing this for 12 years. And, as the company grew and built, and we had different levels in our company of the department heads, et cetera, as I became more removed from the customer of the product and what makes me passionate, building cool, like conversion tools. And so we ourselves, I'm making a point to get re-engaged and connected so that, we can build cool stuff just as people want to innovate new products.
So how do you think about, the personalized web experience and really creating that one-to-one messaging? How do you think about that versus CRO? Because, I think that a lot of brands use CRO in, a very broad way. And, you and I come from the very early days of the internet in respect to performance-based marketing and what it was back then. And back then it was changing the colors of your buttons, testing different headlines, multivariate testing, all this type of stuff to get incremental conversion lifts. But nowadays it feels a lot different than doing just that. And it feels like it's much more about the overall experience. So I'm curious to kind of get your thoughts about, when you think about the personalized web experience and the term CRO is thrown around to cover that. Well, what do you see as the core difference between the two?
My unfiltered take on it.
Please.
I've been doing this for 12 years, and conversion, optimization, CRO conversion. No one gives a shit. No one cares. If you say, we specialize in conversion, Or, hey, let's help you with the conversions. Or, yeah, that's great. Like, we don't have time for that. Like, let's go spend another $100,000 on ads. Or like, it's hard to get buy-in. Customer experience, you can talk about that. Personalization, you can talk about that. Automation, we can talk about that. Retention, we can talk about that. But guess what? That all falls under the umbrella of what? Conversions. So, part of really what I've been wrangling my brain around is understanding and how to communicate a methodology that takes the complexity out and allows, any business to kind of scale with it. Right now, if you spend, anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 a month, maybe you can start seeing some improvement, but that's not realistic for, SMB mid-market companies. It's a really tough sell. And so how do we go about this? I don't have the answer today, but my goal of 2023 is really to turn heads and make conversion cool if we can. And the way we do this, we have to communicate the story. And my goal by end 2023 is to have this methodology down. And what it starts with is looking at your traffic, basics, the visitors. And if a business, we can look at the first 3 months and we say, look, tell me about your traffic. Let's break it down into new visitors and repeat visitors. And let's tell me about them. What are your goals? Obviously, first time visitors, you want to focus on lead capture. And then with those, you can break it down to, okay, let's focus on your top 3 audiences from that. Is it paid? Is it organic? Where is it coming from? Those 3 channels, let's run independent campaigns based off of them. And then when we look at repeat, it's broken into 2 parts. It's a customer that's bought before, or it's one of those first-time visitors that has you won back through different channels. Those customers you need to speak differently to. You don't want to show them a pop-up asking for their email because guess what? You already have it. So let's leverage that data channel they're coming in. If we start there and talk about and build these audiences from a very baseline level, we can then move forward. But until you do that, you're really going to go nowhere. And you can have your average conversion rate of your site, which is where you have to start. But as we break apart these audiences, we can boost each one independently by, say, giving someone coming from a Google paid ad that has a higher bounce rate. Let's do some dynamic promotions. Let's give them that few extra points to get them to convert. That's a thinking we need. But to do this, when you look at it at scale, it's really hard to do. So you need to bring automation into this.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And one thing I love that you said, which I can see as being in the hypergrowth merch stores, make conversions cool again. It's true, right? I mean, CRO it's a term that's thrown around, and that overall customer experience is going to be crucial, where you can really, kind of bring it all into the fold. And honestly, there's a lot of emotions that are created when consumers experience the brand that are subconscious and conscious. So really navigating that is super helpful. So great insight there, Erik. I've got one last question for you. That's kind of a big one. And it has to do with just what's happening this year. And, obviously inflation rates are going up, cost of capital is going up, layoffs around us in terms of every single business in tech and e-com. But I want to know, when you think about e-com and the brands that are looking for that hyper growth, what are the 3 to 4 things that you think brands should really be paying attention to this year? And especially if they're in that bucket of a $10 million brand, but they're looking to scale to 50, how can they look at this year as an opportunity and, kind of lead into it? Well, what are a couple takeaways that you'd think they should think about there?
I often, use this analogy of you have your core customers and your core business, and everyone wants, hypergrowth like this. Hypergrowth doesn't just happen. Hypergrowth starts like a nuclear reaction, and you can't have that if you don't have your core customers in focus, because they're the ones that are going to help amplify things. And as you focus on your core, you then get your outer core, and the core grows. But to do that, you have to be a customer-centric company. And what does that mean? It means you, understand the experience that they want to have from when they meet you through the entire process. And to do that, just look at Amazon. They've achieved that. And how do you achieve that on your own site, your own brand? It can be done. And the nice thing is, with all the apps and technologies available now, you can create a family of apps that achieve this Amazon experience, I call it. And to do that, you really have to be in tune with your customer and also your website and the shopping experience, because customers, they don't have patience for brands that don't get this.
That's
so
right.
There's no quick answer. It's more about a methodology of understanding what your consumer wants. And, the other words, what words are we hearing? This retention, like, how do you get that second sale? The way you get the second sale is you focus on that first experience. So if you blunder that first experience, they're not going to shop with you again.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I think that's probably where we're going to see a lot of brands going this year, especially when you think about, some brands might be leaning into the cycle and approaching it with the Warren Buffett mindset of being greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. They might be the ones that are spending through, right, and allocating more dollars into paid media and allocating more dollars into retention. And then other brands might actually shy away from new customer acquisition, and they might only focus on retention because it's a lower expense to garner that revenue. So it's going to be an interesting year to see how it plays out. But that being said, Erik, really appreciate you jumping on with me. Really appreciate you sharing the story. That's all the time we have today. But to our listeners, tune in for the next episode of Hypergrowth. Erik, again, the founder of JustUno and a serial entrepreneur in the e-commerce space. Someone that I would definitely hit up for anything that you need in terms of insights around personalization and really how to navigate customer experience in the journey for your consumers. So Erik, thanks again. And listeners, we'll talk to you soon.